All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order since we've got at least our expected crew here. And let's do it. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. If Danielle has a flag.
There we go.
There we go. I pledge allegiance to
Allegiance
the
to
flag
the flag
of
of
the
the
United States of America and to the
and to
republic
the republic for
which
which it stands,
one
one
nation
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amazing. I'm glad you were prepared for that, Danielle. I was not.
I was so ready.
All right, so we obviously are here to discuss. Oh, we have to do meeting approval minutes. I forgot. That was our June 20th, also Zoom meeting. Can I have a motion to approve the June 20th meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Although, any questions, discussion? Nope. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Great, 4-0. Okay, on to our new business. Matt, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
All right. So the second reading has no changes from the first reading. So Dr. Klingon, I don't know if you want to share the second reading document from the packet, but it should look familiar to everybody. But I did read the email response from Ms. McGuire. So if Ms. McGuire wanted to add any sort of additional commentary based on what we discussed in the last meeting around Duxbury Middle School, then feel free.
Would you like me to do that right now?
If you want to. Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty clear, but if you just wanted to give just a sort of a quick summary.
Sure. So in looking at the proposed language, I think it reflects the conversations that I had had with my staff about cell phones and where they would live during the day. I heard that a question had come up about the use of lockers and how we had sort of moved away from that over the past number of years. That primarily came from COVID and social distancing and not wanting to encourage kids to be right on top of each other with the lockers so close. And in meeting at the end of the school year with staff about establishing norms going into next year, particularly with regard to cell phones, smartwatches, all those types of devices, earbuds came up as well. We felt like resetting that skill of using the lockers effectively to drop off belongings and keep things stored safely, but B, addressing the cell phone piece and having a safe space for that to live. That sort of was a two birds with one stone type of scenario. And so we were very much in support of leveraging the lockers that we all have and can give every student direct access to and support with as a way to address the cell phone policy as opposed to the caddies.
Right. So that was all I was really prepared to speak to, given that we're not making any changes to this draft, but happy to open it up to conversation if people had input that they wanted to share, based on the time that's gone by between last meeting and this meeting. Happy to have some discussion around it.
Sarah, thanks. I think that was helpful to hear. I think I am psyched about the idea of encouraging locker use again. I think it's horrible for them to walk around all day with these backpacks full of stuff, and they all do it. We know it's not great for their bodies. So that's good. And I think if you're confident that, I think my concern, which I already articulated the last time around, but I will sort of reiterate as I was thinking about this policy and if this is sort of outside our purview. But I think the only piece that's missing to me is sort of like the consequences and enforcement of how this is going to be managed and that's operations. So that's for you and your staff, Danielle, to manage. My only concern is just that if there's not clarity around, so why, what happens if this isn't followed or how that's managed? And if that's something that's addressed specifically in handbooks, maybe. But I'm curious to hear if it might be beneficial to have it in here, or if that in fact is not the right place.
If I could just share, our handbook, and I believe all the other handbooks do have language about the consequence structure for cell phones. And I will just share, over this past week, I've been in conversation with a number of other middle school principals in the area. And this is the topic right now, across that group, and really how to effectively roll out those norms this fall, both for families being really clear about expectations and what that looks like and what they might hear about. We've been sharing some really great resources, like there's a couple books and articles that folks are sharing out and sort of sharing some language around that policy update. And so, when I think about how to establish that norm for this fall with the existing handbook language that we have, I'm thinking a lot about how to sort of roll that out from the start to make sure everybody's on the same page, and has the opportunities, ask questions, and we can provide support through that. So I just want to share that as an aside for some of what is going on in other schools near us and out in the Metro West area as well.
Okay, awesome. So you're confident from your seat anyway that the policy is laying out the rule essentially, and then the kind of enforcement of that will be managed, and the language for that is going to be in handbooks across DMS and DHS. Or already, I apologize if it already is, and I'm not familiar with the specifics.
Yes,
Matt, you don't
I'm
feel like
confident
there's
on
any-
that. Yep.
Okay, and Matt, there's no kind of precedent or anything to have that noted here.
Not to my knowledge. I think if you look through all of our policies, there may be some policies that have disciplinary language in there. For this one, I'm not sure that it's needed. If it turns out that, we need to sort of reinvestigate it, we could always put some language in there. I think that one of the things that might sort of complicate this a little bit is that we have 4 different schools, all different age groups, and my sense is that the disciplinary action might be different. I'm not sure about that, but
Right,
it might make
right.
for a very long, convoluted policy. My suggestion would be to keep this policy just based on the rules, and then, make sure that the principals are enforcing the rules through the teachers. And, my guess, based on what Ms. McGuire is saying, there's some language that's already in the handbooks around that. So I would suggest we just kind of focus on the policy itself.
Okay, yeah, if that's a consensus, that makes sense. My only other, thinking would be to reference that, the sort of the who and the what. So who's responsible for enforcement? It's a school committee policy. Is it crystal clear sort of where the enforcement of this policy sits? Administrators through, and it came down again, and I made the mistake of not pulling it up out of the packet, but again, just ensuring that it is crystal clear sort of where the accountability is for enforcement, and if nothing else, a reference to, developmentally appropriate consequences per handbooks or something like that. I don't know. I guess what my concern is a lack of teeth. And I've articulated this over and over. It sort of feels like I'm like a little bit of a crazy person about wanting this to really kind of be drawing a line in the sand and crystal clear, as opposed to, I think sometimes school committee level policies can
I think that we can
feel a little
certainly-
removed.
I think we can reference, as Sarah had just mentioned to me, we could reference the school committee policy in the handbook, but I think that the general rule of administration is that we're here to adhere to school committee policies. And so when it comes to a policy such as this one, it's up to us as an administrative team and the building principals to make it really clear about how the rule will be enforced by school. And so I think that we have a couple of things that are different this fall with the new Chromebooks being rolled out and those replacements. So I think there's going to be some communications coming out just about what's new and how these things will be managed. So we can make sure that the principals amplify this news and don't just rely on old handbook language without kind of pointing out that over the summer, the school committee implemented this policy. Here's how this will be handled. And I don't think it's going to cause there to be changes to the handbook, but it might just be highlighting that this is now an official policy that will be fully enforced through the handbook for discipline code of conduct.
Yeah, which makes sense. I think, again, it's great that it's being done now so that this fall it sort of roll out almost as it's like a PR campaign. Because
Right.
it's going to be a change, I think, a significant change. And I guess the last thing I'll say, and then I'll allow someone else to speak, is just sort of hearing concerns around teachers not wanting to be responsible, for kind of being the phone police and things like that. So I think it's just, we roll this out, we track it, we see how it goes. Maybe we have kind of a conscious check-in about how things are going, quarterly throughout this year to see how it's working, and where the pain points might be from the perspective of staff and or building principals. And that's what kind of just the best path forward. Because I think my concern with the middle school piece again is that, if they don't put it in the lockers and they're walking into the classrooms with, then it falls on the teachers to be, kind of managing that. But again, I'm confident in our administrators that you guys are gonna kind of set the precedent, and hopefully it's a clear start and a refresh, and that will help.
Laurel, I agree with everything you said. The feedback I got was, well, the kids don't use their lockers at the middle school, even if they're supposed to. And I haven't had a middle schooler for a couple of years. So, again, that's going to fall on staff and administrators to sort of chase that. I just get the feeling there's a reluctance to really put some teeth into a cell phone policy, because, I'm on the school advisory committee at the high school, and Todd's like, well, the teachers kind of wanted to be in charge, and I have a high schooler, as do many people, and kids are on their phones constantly. So I feel like it just is falling on the teachers once again. And I know we're going to start the year off strong and we're going to have new language, but I want to know what it looks like, by January or at Christmas time when everybody's completely spent. And we have talked about that repeatedly, but I think a lot of teachers probably aren't going to love the fact that now every kid's phone is on their desk. So just good luck with that.
I think that what some feedback I've heard from the teachers is that it makes it hard to implement a rule when there's some people of their colleagues that are not following through with it, because then it becomes this class is really strict and you can leave your phone in your bag and no one even tries, and then this other class the teacher doesn't mind. So I think that the expectation moving forward should be that the teachers are the ones that are enforcing this in their classrooms, and they won't have to feel like the only one that's enforcing it now that this is reiterated in a school committee policy. So that's my hope, is that we're putting the teachers in a better position moving forward, as opposed to, this is not a new rule, yet not everyone has been following it. And so I think that's where we're hearing from the students and the teachers. So the principals definitely come back multiple times in the fall to report to school committee on school improvement plans and just how opening went. So I think certainly school committee can check in with especially Todd and Sarah about how, not Todd, I'm sorry, Jen Cotton Herman and Sarah about how this is going as we start the year.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say is I would just remind everyone that, this is the first time we've had a policy in the policy manual about cell phone usage. Everything else has been in the handbooks. And I think one of our previous discussions just made note of the fact that in the handbooks, the language was kind of squishy around, especially in the high schools, around like, unless there's a, educational purpose for using the phones in a classroom. So to me, there were just too many loopholes in the rule that made it my guess is it just makes it easy to make for inconsistency. So now that we have a policy, my expectation would be that, the the administrative leaders enforce the policy. I agree that it would be nice to have some sort of a check-in and do a gut check at some point during the academic year to see to ensure that it's being enforced. And it might be worthwhile to make sure that the new rule is put in some sort of a newsletter. I'll leave that to Dr. Klingman to decide, but we are changing over computers, so the timing is pretty good, I think, to amplify the message out to the community. And it might also make sense to just ensure that the Clipper's aware of it, because the Clipper did, I think, make some mention of this in a thing. So now that it's in there, I think it would probably help if it were in the paper. That's not on our control, but we can certainly ensure that that Matthew Nadler knows about it. My guess is he's always looking for content. So this would be, I think, relevant content to put in the paper. And I think all of that just contributes to the fact that we're just shining a spotlight on this this issue and this situation. So it should all, I think, contribute to awareness and enforcement.
Yeah, and Matt, that's a great, I was thinking both of those are great. It's always great to have stuff in the Clipper, especially because to your point, he did put there's kind of like a teaser in there that we were talking about this, but it was kind of a fluff article because we hadn't made a decision yet. So that'd be great. I don't know if Danielle, if you want me, let me know what I can do to facilitate that communication. But I think it would be really great, whether it's from the school committee because it's our policy or maybe in collaboration with you, Danielle, to have a communication before the total insanity of back to school communication start, but just as if in fact we proceed tonight and this kind of goes into effect, that a communication goes out. I think this is top of mind for people in the community. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's talking about it on social media. It's just all over the place. So for it to be, and maybe we wait a little bit because if Sarah, that's great. If you have like materials, I think families are desperate to do this and enforce it more at home and all these things. So if we can create this kind of wave into the fall, and we've provided resources for parents to understand why. I think a lot of people do, they just don't know how to do it. But anything that you're getting, even for in the building, that could go out in a full communication from the adjustment counselors, all of it, to kind of constantly reiterate and give the community some tools to not only advocate for why this is important, but help people feel like they can do it and support it. Both with their kids going to school and also even at home.
Laurel, we could do a press release if you would like to collaborate on that, and possibly Matt too, since Matt had a strong hand in developing the policy draft that we came up with. But then we could send that to the Clipper as well. That way it has the information that we feel is most important to share.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. And I
that.
would appreciate Matt participating actually, because I think that would be good as a policy subcommittee elevated to the school committee. And now it's in place. Hopefully we haven't voted yet. So. Okay. Katie? Wise words?
No, I am having connection issues, so sorry. But B, no, I think my biggest components of it were communicating it to the community, like you've already touched on, and just really enforcing. I think if it starts day one, and even if there's like 3 layers of like first violation, second violation, whatnot, which I think has always been in the handbooks, I think this has to happen this year, and we have to get some control back. So I hope that it works. I hope that we're able to start at day one and push pretty hard.
Yeah. Okay. Do we feel like we're ready for a vote? Yes. Matt, you want to lead
Yeah,
it?
I move to approve the addition of policy IJNDF, cell phone smart device policy.
Second.
Awesome. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. 4-0. Thank you, Matt, for doing and Kelly for doing the work on writing. I'm really hopeful about this, and I think I'm excited for a reset and a new school year. So It's going to be great. And Danielle will work on, and Matt, maybe we can connect even during the workshop or something, or I don't know if you have like standard stock kind of
Yeah,
draft.
I can start a draft and then I'll share it with you and go from there, hopefully in the near future, so we don't wait too long.
Yeah.
This is hot off the press news at this point.
Oh, it is. I mean, summer news is a little slow around here, so I think it's great.
I'm gonna keep the
Um,
content coming.
Yeah. All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Unless there's anything else.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
We have to vote and adjourn. Can't remember. Yes. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
All
See you
right,
soon.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.